Welcome back to the beaches of Praia da Rocha here in Portimao, Portugal. The sun's come back out, the wind unfortunately has also come back out here for this game in the men's division. Italy, who we saw in that thrilling comeback 10-9 yesterday against the Ukraine, are taking on Ukraine's neighbours Russia here in the men's division. Benji Rees on play-by-play for this game, joined by the one and only Mr. Tom Styles.
Good afternoon, Benji, and it's nice to be back up here with our beautiful view of the beaches. The Atlantic just bobbling away over to our right, and the Russians with their hands in the air.
I'm very excited to see this, get a first look at this Russian side. Obviously, one of their club sides, Real 5, were the champions at EBUC in the men's division back in October, and one of their other sides, Shadows, took 5th place, so a lot of strength on the beach for the Russians. We'll see how effectively they can play here, and they're moving this pretty effectively early on, not really seeming to struggle with the wind at the moment.
The Italians throwing a zone. Oh, it just came straight over his hand there. Turnover for Italy.
Yeah, gloves didn't quite have the intended effect that time, just stuck in his grasp maybe a bit more than he wanted, and Lugasti is going to pick up for the Italians. Mikhail Kudobin, who's a key player for this Russian side, is going to get the mark on. Oh, this is going to be a hospital ball. Everyone underneath, and in the end just palmed to the ground by the Russians. Try to sit that little IO on the wind, and not really the weather for it. It's zone again from the Italians, but the Russians are going to try and hug their way out of it this time. Goodovin is wide open, but just too far. You can see him, see what he wanted. He was saying that he wanted the disc flat and didn't need to put the wind, didn't need to show the underside of the disc to the wind and take it out the back.
Well, this end-to-end wind is going to be a big factor in this game. It's coming from our right, and yesterday it was coming from behind the camera, sort of a straight crosswind, and it caused havoc with the disc in play. Throws and catches were all tough, but it didn't really affect which end zone was being scored in. This time I think it will do.
That's definitely the preferential end zone to shoot at, I'd say. And yeah, as you mentioned, going right to left ever so slightly away from us. And what a layout D to start this game from number 89, which is Nikita Kovshov. Flying through. I'm looking at it again on the replay. Just fantastic. Gets that inside line and explodes out of the traps. Dannenberg tried to just little flip it in there to Kudobin, but he couldn't make the catch. And a couple of turnovers this first point from the Russians. I was expecting it to be a little bit tighter than this.
Yeah, Kudobin, like you were saying, one of those Real 5 players who had some incredible stats from last year's club championships on the beach.
So we'll see this Italian offense that was excellent in fits and starts yesterday, but wasn't really particularly consistent. Go back to work. Lugasi looking around, doesn't like that flick option, still not really seeing anything downfield. Eventually a cut does come to the open side, and they're going to shoot it into the end zone, and then we'll break to start this game. A little punch spike into the ground. Andrea Gaspari with the assist.
Yeah, excellent play from the Italians. Took their time, didn't want to shoot anything. Obviously not comfortable with that first look at his forehand flick into this breeze, but had patience, trusted the rest of the team to get free, and eventually pushed it in.
Yeah, I see again, Gaspari look up and immediately shoot it. Nice timing on that cut.
Interesting to see Lugasi being the go-to person, picking up every disc, and they're trying to initiate play, the Italians there. Yesterday it seemed to be Rossi that was taking that role.
I imagine we'll probably see Rossi do the same for the O-line and when he's on the pitch, but Lugasi doing a pretty good job marshalling the offense there, and Pietro Vanucci, the scorer there for the Italians. So they're a nice break to start this game from their point of view. Not necessarily the cleanest, but they won't mind. Disc in the air, ready to pull. See that pink disc against the now beautiful blue sky and the Atlantic Ocean in the distance as well. Flat pull, bit of a racer. Butikov, another big thrower on this Russian side.
The Italians quite compressed around their disc in the zone, trying to create problems for the Russians, but they're not really stopping them very much at all at the moment.
They're just the same two players getting the disc all the time, a bit like they're just playing catch in their back garden. If only their back garden was a beach, and now slinging it down the far sideline could not have been any easier, really, that point for the Russians.
So the Italians seem to be playing a 2-2-1 defense there, but the Russians were moving the discs through that front pair so quickly and around the front pair so quickly. The Italians playing catch-up the whole while. And if you're the deep defender in that situation, you can't afford to get beaten on the open side on an obvious swing pass. He had the timing, he should have had the position. The Russians have scored a little bit too easily.
Something that I think a lot of teams forget with the zone is the most dangerous pass is generally back where it comes from, because you're always going back and forth, and the Italians did not do a good enough job of shutting that off. The disc went between the same two players far too much for my liking. And in the end, Naumov and Petrenko, as you mentioned, with a really well-timed cut to that far sideline. So here we go. Here is the aforementioned Riccardo Rossi. Nice little IO throw there. Slightly a bit of outside-in shape on it, but got it to sit nicely on the wind, trying to get free. Kochkin's a really tough defender, bids for it, but he's never going to get there.
Kochkin's defense there was remarkable, really staying low, watching the feet of Rossi more than he was watching the body.
And Kochkin's let Rossi go deep, and he's able to pop up and make that catch relatively comfortably with two hands. Kochkin sets the mark now, see him get wide with those arms, a little bit of a bump on the mark, I think.
The straddle defense from Kochkin was too close. He was over the leg. You're not allowed to be over the leg of the person you're marking. Body was touching the shoulder, and Rossi with the foul.
I think there's probably a number of marks. You could definitely probably be also accused of wrapping there as well, getting his arms too far across as well, again across that pivot. Lovely low release there from Rossi, and one pass into the end zone. Vittorio Golini, the recipient this time. That Italian O-line looks pretty confident to me.
Yeah, it's a different animal from the team we saw yesterday when their O-line was all over the place, and it was only their dogged defense that, and some Ukrainian mistakes, let's be honest about it, that got them back into that match yesterday.
This is much more like the Italians that we're used to, being very comfortable at home on the sand, and Andrea Molina with that backhand into the zone for the goal.
Rossi currently is leading the stats for the Italians with 4 assists and 2 goals. And Gaspari is second with 4 assists and 1 goal.
There's certainly a team that seems to spread the stats around. There's no one player who's far and away the highest scorer or assister.
Yeah, very evenly matched, which I think is going to serve them well into the depth of the tournament.
Seeing quite a few teams favour those upside-down pulls, maybe not as quite affected by the wind as the traditional backhand would be. Oh, there's a deep option there, but Dannenberg instead takes Kudobin underneath, now on the far sideline. Naumov shooting deep. Petrenko not quite in the end zone like he was for the first score. Maybe take the dish off, and fancy a bit of footwork there from Naumov.
Yeah, the really impressive thing about the Russian offense there was how willing they were to fake under, and the Italians bought on that, and then 3 of them had managed to beat their player deep, and not by a little margin as well. The attack had options into the end zone, and the Italians are really going to have to think. I mean, the Italians aren't marking that as heavily as they would go in the other direction because it's into the wind, but frankly, it didn't seem to make any difference to the Russian offense there.
Yeah, a little bit of a role reversal there, Petrenko to Naumov, so they've now both got 1 goal and 1 assist to their names, but if you can really get them to bite hard on that fake under, really drive it, make it convincing, it does make it a lot more difficult to cover because you have to turning the hips is so difficult on this sand. That's how you open up separation. Backhand pull goes all the way over us. I nearly fell off my chair leaning back to watch it, and it lands just about out of bounds, rolls, hits that WFDF sign in the background.
You can see the sponsors around the field. Very lucky to have such supportive organisations as VC and Discraft looking after all the merchandise needs of the players. There's a big merchandising tent over on the right-hand side. Players nipping in there to get some swag.
You saw one of the spirit signs behind that VC side there as well, just reminding players to play with the utmost spirit. Deep shot is well read, adjusted for the wind, looks into the end zone, doesn't seem particularly comfortable, dishes the disc off behind Cafaro, now looking into the end zone. Tries to isolate Rossi and goes with a little lefty. I love that look into the end zone. Saw was a very narrow IO channel, and the lefty pass to, I think it's Mastelari, the target. Just a nice way of getting a little bit creative to open the locker.
It's impressive. The last 4 points have all been, in fact, all the points so far have been scored into the windward end zone, so into the wind.
Our last game was pretty much the opposite, that all the points were scored with the wind.
Downwind.
This time it doesn't seem to affect them that much. One of the problems we did see last game as well was teams overshooting in that direction, going with the wind. So maybe that's why teams have struggled a bit going in that way, whereas against the wind, you're just not necessarily hucking it as much.
I think we're going to see another one of these upside down pulls again. Oh, no, a bit flatter. Very difficult to throw the disc slowly down the wind, and it's very difficult not to overcook it, which is exactly what the Italian puller has done there. Big difference for that is that the disc is now going to come all the way back to the brick mark, which is not really where you want to be starting.
And that's obviously the disincentive for pulling it out of bounds. Discraft side getting a nice little 10-pointer there.
So the Russians, you know, that's a 30-meter walk he's been able to take up the field because the Italians overcooked the pull. They want to control that later on in the game.
So the underneath comes. There's Naumov shooting deep, looking for Khudobin. It's going to sit, it's going to sit. Oh, a nice volleyball-style D, swatting it away like a defenseman rejecting a spike over the net.
Yeah, Naumov's disc was sensational, beautifully weighted, really hard skill to throw that even flat disc, but it just hung in the air a little bit too long. Italian pressure gathering underneath and eventually getting the block.
Couple of defenders underneath it in the end. And now they're getting a chance to break and over a 2-point lead here.
The Russian defense all setting up deep of the Italians. So the Italians turning and going underneath, taking what they're given.
And with nothing going on, having to shoot it deep, but the one thing you have to do on those deep shots is make sure you can keep them in bounds, otherwise you're sacrificing some field position. He wasn't able to do that.
Well, this is going to be a huge advantage here to the
Russians,
because when that Italian release came, it's gone straight out of the side of the field, and they're probably going to have 5 meters, 10 meters to go the last few meters.
It feels like, so it looks like the force is setting up on the halfway line, so probably came back in bounds a little bit before drifting out of that far side. So not as disastrous as it perhaps could have been, but obviously it's not less than ideal. So walked up to that roughly halfway. Proskoyev is going to say he's set up as the dump. Swung into the middle for Naumov. Underneath Sopranov. Nice swing around Naumov again. Looking downfield for Khudobin. Khudobin dishing it off. Proskoyev inside underneath. And zinging it into the end zone there for the goal. Naumov once more all over the stat sheet early on in this game. Khudobin's got his first goal, and the Russians level it up at 3-all.
Yeah, Naumov's second assist to go with his point as well. He's clearly having a big role so far in this game. And let's see what he's been doing the rest of the tournament. He's had 3 assists in the first 3 games, and now 2 assists in the first 6 points here. So making a real impact, probably taking the pressure off some of the other big Russians.
Butikov is a man who's known for being one of their key throwers. He's got 7 assists so far this tournament and no goals, which is difficult to do. I'm always in awe of players who have plenty of assists and no goals. I think my favourite example, Christian Hamann, the Hashlish Erdvogel player, last year's World Club Championships on grass in Cincinnati. He had about 45 assists and no goals. Surely at some point you have to score a goal just by accident.
A huge pull from the Russians. That was great. They floated it high and they've given the Italians a real job.
And then chased it down, so there's pressure on immediately. There's not really any easy passes underneath. Thought about getting the bid, but couldn't get in there before Cafaro could. Now looking at Rossi and Kochkin is the big power matchup in this game, and he's going to lash it deep on a high stall, but the wind's always going to take that. Just got the wrong shape on it. That blade is always going out that far sideline, Tom.
Yeah, Cafero's got a tough ask there, and a high stall count to get the arm out through a level pass under pressure. Really, really tough skill. I think that just shows quite how effective players like Narmov have been so far in this upwind situation. They've been able to control the disc. Big puck goes downfield.
Not quite in the end zone there. Zolotarev dishing it back, and Rossi with a sick layout D on Kochkin.
Oh, Rossi's awareness was outstanding. It's just a fraction of a second to see the opportunity. Threw his body at it, got the block for Italy.
It's a lovely throw to initiate, wide and low and zinging it through, but that time the pass to Rossi's a bit high, can't quite wrap his hands around it, was a difficult ask. Butikov now for the Russians, shooting deep. Kochkin's got the better of Russia that time. Took him towards the break side, and the throw cut against the wind and going deep to, if you can get the throw on the break side over the defender, it gives them almost no chance.
Yeah, Buchikov's 8th assist of the tournament, first of this game. He's clearly got the measure of the wind here in Portugal. Well, a very tightly matched game. Very difficult to see a clear favourite for this match so far, Benji.
I think on paper you'd probably back the Russians, but the Italians are showing that they're more than capable. We saw again that wonderful layout D from Riccardo Rossi, who is a talisman of this side. Shoulder high. Kochkin kind of expected that to come.
And then it was Rossi's error. And you have to feel for him a little bit. Is this a replay of that Rossi layout again?
Yeah, this is that throw from Butikov. You see now why he's leading the team in assists, because it's a brilliant shot over towards the break side, and Kochkin's clearly excited, that white headbound.
Yeah, it's that knife from the sidearm side over defenders and downwind. So difficult to get the combination of float and power right. But he completely nailed the shot exactly as he wanted to put it. Rossi with the disc now for Italy.
Yeah, the Italians trying to bring things level. Russia have their first lead of the game. Rossi not really seeing a huge amount of separation downfield, so he's just going to pivot out and send it deep, and the disc is going to be knocked away by the number 11 shirt of Alexander Mojcevic.
Yeah, Mojcevic had eyes on that the whole way in. The Italian, you're quite right, Benj. There's the separation that the Italians are getting against this hard-running Russian defense wasn't enough. They have looked slightly more athletic. Now that's an interesting one. He's not going to bring it to the line. He's just going to send it.
I think maybe hoping to catch the Italians unawares. It was already set up to the force on that end zone line, so thought take an early one. There's no one guarding him, but it was picked off in coverage. Nagalia now, Rossi shooting deep again, and once more, this time with the left hand. Contorted himself into an awkward position, but was able to knock it away once more was Alexander Mojcevic.
Tough conditions to, have the disc, to see your team making progress, run up there, and then have to go back, do the defensive duties. He was off balance there, but great presence of mind to keep that under control.
So Butikov finds Kochkin, being marked by Rossi. Once more, that powerhouse matchup. Already delivered so much. Nice creative around break. Butikov lashing it deep. Well read in the end, but
didn't quite connect to the fingertips. Just bounced out onto the sand. Really unfortunate.
Yeah, Ostapenko was the intended target, and Rossi, not a surprise, marching towards the disc, the marshal of this Italian offense, and immediately calls a timeout.
Well, while that timeout's gone, let's just talk a little bit about Vlad Kochkin versus Riccardo Rossi. That pair matching up against each other, and the respect that Kochkin gave Rossi there by making that pass from his knees. He knew that if he just pivoted, he wasn't going to have enough space around the Rossi force to get the disc out. So he's making absolutely 100% sure he can get enough space, go down low, get the arm out, and I think that's going to be a one to watch for the rest of this game.
I think it's almost like that fantastic layout from Rossi kind of fired up Kochkin. It's like, okay, we've got yeah, and I've got a handful here.
Yeah.
See the Italians with some rhythmic clapping here in this huddle. It's one of the advantage having a field mic is we can see the energy in these timeouts.
You can almost hear what they're saying as well. How's your Italian, Benji?
Yeah, just trying to pick it up. My it's not great, I'll be honest. So the only words needed in any language are the words for 2 beers, please, thank you, and cheers. Because if you can learn those, you can make a friend pretty much anywhere.
And the Italians with lots of noise here on the beach. The party in Portimao continues. The men's division matchup of Italy and Russia, bringing all the spice we'd expect.
And we're just about ready to rock and roll again on Praia da Rocha. Rossi bringing off the timeout. Interesting setup. There's no dump set here. They've got Lugasi isolated in the middle of space, middle of the field with plenty of space. The 3 other Italians on that far sideline. You've got number 64, Alex Mastelari. It also looks like we've got Alessandro Galli.
I've seen this
Gaspari
offense
as
before,
well.
but only indoors. So Lugasi's with all the space.
Swinging it back to Rossi now. He's going to sit a lovely inside-out backhand. That is a beautiful throw from Riccardo Rossi. Lugasi is the grateful recipient. Bid from Anton Butikov was close, but not quite close enough. Just a fantastic throw from Rossi.
You can't underestimate what a difficult skill that is. He's going downwind, he's got to put the disc in front of the defender and into the path of Lugasi. Lugasi didn't have to stretch, he didn't have to reach, he just ran onto it. Great combination for the Italians, and if they can keep that going, then they're in a very good place for this game.
Yeah, Kochkin too far off on the force, and it meant he could pivot out and put that IO shape on the disc. And Lugasi was an extremely grateful recipient. You see here, swings the disc and then takes off deep immediately. Butikov probably thinks it's not coming, but with the space, he can put that inside-out shape and the high release, using the wind to his advantage as a thrower, sitting it there and using the shape to make sure it doesn't go too far. Just a pinpoint, precision, accurate throw from Riccardo Rossi.
Buchikov's bid was pretty special as well, you have to say. Not quite enough.
That's the advantage of good throwing, though. It means that even with good bids, you can't quite get there. So looking for the upline, points Proskurakev. No, it's now off once more, and that's going to be a pick.
Yeah, the collision between 4 players in the middle of the stack, cutting into each other.
Giovanni Ceccaroni, the number 13 share, is the picked player for the Italians. So just check back in as you heard there through the field, Mike. Nice swing to Petrenko. Tall figure of Petrenko. Swings back to Naumov. Coming underneath now, they've got an option. They're going to try and blade into the end zone. Oh, I thought for a little bit that he wasn't going to get there. It looked like Proskurakev slowed up a little bit. Maybe thought it wasn't going, but
there might be a travel call here.
Good spot.
There's a conversation happening. Fumagalli. Is he maybe saying that he pushed him away as he ran into the end zone? It's difficult to tell. They go to English as the language of choice. You can just about hear the conversation.
English is mostly the language of ultimate, and this is one of the issues. I say issues that seems to have resolved it relatively quickly here, actually. But 2 teams communicating in what is not their first language can sometimes be a little bit tricky. That's partly why the hand signals were brought in, but they seem to have resolved that pretty quickly. Sims was on the earlier throw to Kovshov rather than the score, so yeah, Kovshov has it now.
That's going to fire both these teams up, and the Russians have dropped it into the sand.
Asked too much of Proskurakev that time.
Well, a finely balanced game we have here.
There's Baroncini. Thinks about a deep look. Not really a lot developing. Eventually finds underneath through to Fumagalli. Backhand around and just pops through that little letterbox that Vinici had given him.
so frustrating when that happens. The wind is right into the face of that disc, and at any moment, a little turbulence can catch it and rise it above your hands, or not quite into the area you're expecting it to be, and you end up looking like a fool.
This is the issue with crab catching. If you get your hands too close together, it's just hitting straight in and bouncing out again and too far apart, and you give that window, that tiny window for the disc to go through. Got to have them positioned exactly rightly. Now here's Naumov. Swinging it back to Proskuriakev. Goes to playing a little bit of catch in the backfield. Now strikes up line, and it's too quick for Pietro Vanucci, and the Russians do regain the lead at 5-4. Nice, exciting game here, Tom.
Oh, Naumov is setting the game alight for Russia. That's 2 goals and 2 assists for the big number 21. He has been leading by example. So that's 4 of the 5 goals have had Naumov on one end of them.
And the one that wasn't was a break. And he wasn't in the pitch. It's just all over the field, giving the Italians 21 reasons just to try and find a way to cover that man, and they haven't been able to do so.
It was one of the longest points in terms of number of passes that we've had. 12 passes the Russians took during that point in 2 separate possessions.
Certainly felt like a slightly more concerted effort from the Italians to take away the deep shots, those instant killer passes, the dagger through the heart of the Italian defence, but happy that time just to dink and dunk their way up.
Well, they've been sagging deep on the horizontal stack all the way through the game. Let's see what the Russians do in return.
Here's Lugassi shooting a deep. Oh, there's a bit available here, and I think he went a little bit too early for it, but just too far out in front. Nearly a chance at a highlight reel play from Andrea Gaspari. So Ukraine now can open up, Russia even, that was yesterday the Ukraine game. Russia can open up their first 2-point lead of the game here.
Gaspari has been making big impact on the stat sheet for the Italians in their first 4 games with 4 assists and a goal. Not able to add to that tally.
Here's Kudovin. Done back to Butikov. Lashing it deep, a little bit of inside-out shape, eventually turns outside in, but the defender knew the disc was heading that way and had position, and the receiver just did not have a chance to make a play at all.
I don't think the Russian would have got to the disc anyway, but Cafaro, he knew he wasn't in the right place as well, but he just occupied the space that the Russian would have needed to run through.
He was in the wrong place.
He was in the wrong place. It was clever play.
So here's Rossi trying to squeeze it down the far sideline, finds Cafaro. Rossi takes off up line, little inside there available. Bounces off the hands of Mastellari. Butikov not hanging about. Bites hard, really chomps down, takes a huge munch out of that fake. High release to Kochkin.
Is he calling a stall out here? You can hear the, as I said, the T of Sense would be a contested stall out, which will come back in on 8. He's looking for a push pass downwind here as a reset. Oh,
that felt you heard it
fast.
quick there on the field mic as well. Definitely felt like that was not a full second in between 9 and 10.
And he's
retracted
that call because he knew he'd fast counted as well, which is good spirit from the Italian.
I mean, ideally you'd not fast count in the first place, but yeah, admitting his fault there. This is going to stay with Kudovin.
We all make mistakes. When given the opportunity to learn from them, that's great play from the Italians.
And I mean, that's something that so many players do. You get excited knowing the stall count's coming. Butikov finds Kudovin and backhand breaks the force to Kochkin. A 2-point lead open up now for the Russians at 6-4.
Well, Kochkin had the easiest job there just to catch that short 5-meter pass, but you could see the difficulty he had in reeling it in. It's moving all over the place in this wind, but the Russians dealing with it better at the moment. A point at either end of the field and a break against the Italians.
You had to have a fair amount of juice on that. Thankfully, was used to that kind of spice. You see this time, just over pursued to the open side, and that allowed the around break into the middle to go.
We're expecting the weather in Portugal to stay similar to this for the rest of today, and then get a little bit colder tomorrow before it starts warming up for the weekend. And the Saturday finals expect to be played in some stunning conditions. What do the weathermen know? But we're hopeful that that will be the case. We're going to all enjoy the Algarve at its best.
If it were only a bit stiller, it would be absolutely perfect conditions.
Yes, we do have our coats on up here in the commentary, but it looks hot on the cameras, but...
It's just because we're a little bit exposed. And, oh, he thought about catching that and left it in the end, and Rossi's going to bring it in from the brick mark.
That was so close to being the perfect pull, and actually turns out to be just a bricked pull. Rossi happy to walk it back up. I don't think the two of them fancied working it out of their own end zone under that sort of Russian pressure.
I certainly wouldn't, especially against the wind. That's a nice inside break to start. Lugassi looking around. Rossi's taking off deep. Oh, we're going to try and blade it. Oh, and Max is going to go back up in the air. Splat out with one hand in the sky. Catch a bit more casual than I would have liked from Molino, but he does make it stick.
Oh, Butchakov must be absolutely gutted. He got up there, fingertip touch. He thought he'd done all the hard work, but when the disc caught in the wind and came back down, it was an Italian hand that it landed in, and an Italian that was in the end zone.
Does feel a bit mean saying catch your D's in this situation, but how are they going to get on the replay? Rossi's always the target here, and just, yeah, playing a bit of Mac line. Rossi put it back up in the air, and Molino catched it and lands 2 feet in the end zone.
You can hear the Italians in the crowd. You can see the Italians in the crowd having a great time, amped up.
Oh, it feels much better with a bit of atmosphere, Tom. Benji Reese and Tom Styles here, bringing you the exciting conclusion of this men's game between Russia and Italy. The Russians 6-5 to the good at the moment. Going to let that pull hit the sand.
It's a game to 13. Time cap at 45 minutes.
Naumov takes the swing, looking downfield as an underneath comes. Nicely put out in front, well weighted to Kovshov. Dished off. Here's Dannenberg, Ilya Dannenberg looking for it all. He's not going to get it, but he's going to get most of it. Kovshov dumping it off now, taking the reset, letting their red zone offense get to work. Here's Sopronov, looking in and around, shows it early, and the cut comes. Proskyurikov is going to get it in to Kovshov.
Yeah, Kovshov was great there, just stood at the back of the end zone, waited while the rest of the team did the work, and then exploded away and made himself available that front corner. It was a well-drilled bit of red zone offense from the Russians.
Especially where the windows are smaller, you've got to be accurate. You've got to time it nicely, and he waited for the right opportunity and struck. And there's that around break. Just gave him a bit more space to work with, sent it flowing back towards the open side, and just got the jump on his defender who put a bit in, but it was never going to come to fruition.
And there's so little you can do about that. Even though you know that he's going to go to that corner, you know roughly when he's going to go because you can see the rest of the play. Just you can't get too far ahead of him because that leaves him open to go to the other side. The explosive power. We're talking about fractions of a second of difference in reaction time, and it's already too late. The Russian's at the front of the end zone with a disc in his hands.
So the team's changing ends at half-time. The Italians will be receiving out of the half, and with the wind in the more favourable direction, so they want to start here with a comfortable hold before trying to pick away at some of those breaks.
Yeah, the games have been really fast and flowing this week here in Portimao. very short half. I don't think they're actually taking a break at all, just swapping ends.
Yeah, the idea of that is to mitigate the advantage of winning the toss. Maybe in windy games such as this, trying to take a little bit of advantage out of it.
Well, both teams have shown how capable they are of scoring in either direction, despite the wind. And a great pull into the wind. That's a vicious breeze he's throwing into.
Some of the Russian women coming down to support their fellow countrymen. Nice work. The Italians moving the disc quickly. This is what they're really good at, a bit of give-go. And
a travel called.
Yep, gonna reset. Mikhailo Mojcevic on the mark. Nice inside Lugassi, dishing off to Rossi. There's a shot to the break side. Oh, big bid from Kudovin is just fractionally shy. Andrea Molino with his second goal in short order.
And if you had a textbook and you were looking at the page that said flowing offense, that would be on the front cover. Beautiful work from the Italians. They never had the disc in hand. Even after that stoppage where the Russians called a travel, stopped the play, they got straight back on it. Timing of the cuts and the cohesion between the team. You can see that's not a big window he's throwing into for that last pass. And the Russian came storming in with a great bid. You can see the delight on the Italians' faces coming up with the point.
Handers, they're doing a very good job of following the disc up the field with the play. So when that inside out went, Lugassi was able to instantly dish it off to Rossi. And he's catching the disc here, ready to throw, seeing the field. So he sees that cut develop and he can catch it and instantly release. Doesn't have to hang about or hang the disc on at all.
Yeah, super play. Both these sides, the Italians.
Russians
back within one.
They're going to get the disc back as well. Gali with the layout, there was a lot of pressure under that. Giacaroni was there as well, going to get the force to bite. Lugassi has it now. Fumagali set up as a swing, he's going to get the disc here. Gali looking for the disc, thinks about it on the break side, doesn't like it, dishes it off. Oh, that throw is misplaced. Too far for Luca Lugassi. Dannenberg's going to send off deep, not going to come, so they're just going to reset their offense, and actually it's going to be Dannenberg who will pick up the disc.
And you could see what the handler was trying to do. They're trying to put it into a position where Lugassi could grab it and the defender couldn't, but it was just too far beyond him. And that's the turnover.
And he's going to shoot it deep, looking for Shovkov. Oh, got a hand to it.
Oh, he threw everything at that, the hands, the face, the visor. Got a whole bunch of sand involved and no disc.
There is sand in orifices where there should not be sand, which is pretty much anyone, I think, in all honesty.
I think if you're playing a beach tournament, you'll be picking sand out of your ears on Tuesday afterwards, won't you?
So my first ever beach tournament was Paganello 2012, and I'm still finding sand from that tournament. It's just unbelievable. It gets everywhere.
Yeah.
I've designated a special pair of beach trousers and non-beach trousers to try and combat that effect this year. I don't think it'll work. So here's the Italians with another chance to bring this game level. Everyone takes off deep. Ceccaroni's the under option. Gonna find Fumagali with a nice gainer there. Looks for the IO shots to Gali. Probably does the wise thing and holsters it. Here's Luca Lugassi. Nice break around to Ceccaroni. Out in space, Lugassi has to dive and does keep it off the sand. Now the break looking for Gali. Too high and not the intended receiver, Fumagali. And now the two of them look to play a little bit of homeboy, but it's shut down quickly. Here's swing to Fumagali. He's suspiciously open. You know what that usually means.
It's a pick.
It's a pick.
So really great heads-up awareness from the Italians. The disc was not intended to finish where it did in the centre of the field. It was the Italians that reacted fastest. Real frustration for the Russians, not able to capitalise on that mistake.
Got to have your head on a swivel in these windy conditions, and the Italians showed why there. Here's Gali looking at the end zone. Fumagali isolated, just the dump, just about gets it through. Throw and go on the move, but maybe too much go and not enough throw.
So he signalled travel uncontested, but he is contesting.
He's not. I think that's not. Rather than him making the uncontested the signal for uncontested, that's the maybe a little bit of the shrug of the shoulders that Tan's a little bit known for. The issue here is the play continued. I think people downfield not necessarily aware that that was going on and did get that turnover. So just signalling what's going to happen, whether that affected play. I don't think it did. I would say the turnover should stand.
I think it's very difficult to know in these situations. So he's retracting the travel call and the turnover's going to stand, the Italians. Oh no, he's going to... Oh, so he's retracting the travel call, but the pass is going to go to Lagazzi before the pass into the end zone. That seems like a fair outcome for both teams.
Yeah, I think maybe saying that actually, maybe with Fumagalli not stopped, that would be, he would then be the option potentially. Trying to break it around to Gallo. Picture perfect, clap, catch, layout. The Italians are level once more. First time they've been level since 4-all.
Well,
now,
some may level the accusation of showboating at Alexandro Galli there, but I will not be one of those. That was spectacular.
I mean, if you've got it, flaunt it. And now Russian sideline getting quite loud. A couple of other Russian teams coming out to help their charges. You can hear the stands rattling a little bit in that wind. Oh, I must say, this array of flags showing all 22 countries represented here at this tournament in alphabetical order with Career Island at the end, because, you know, have you ever been to Career Island?
No. It's an amazing place, I hear.
I hear so many things. Very, very diverse and multicultural, actually.
Yes. Our commentary system, Commentary Source, has got little flags next to all of the players to indicate their nationality. It's normally quite a boring list because it usually reflects the country that they're playing for. That is a great pull. It's going to be brought to the front line because it's bounced out of the field.
Yeah, using it upside down very effectively. Galli fell over on the way up, and probably handy for him that the disc is coming in from the front.
But on the Career Island side, the nationality flags are quite the interesting read.
I never knew it was in Europe, actually. I always thought, because at the previous event there was no Career Island, there was the United European Islands, but I think with global warming and rising sea levels, they've since sunk underwater to be replaced by Career Island. Here's Goudobin shooting deep towards that. Don't think he wanted to go towards that far side, certainly not out of the pitch, but just didn't adjust for the wind enough.
Caught the feet in the heavy sand there as well. The metaphorical sand monster.
I miss the United European Islands. Gone but not forgotten.
We'll if you have a quick Google for Career Island, C-U-R-R-I-E-R Island, find out what we're talking about there.
So on a high stall, Rossi's going to put it deep, using that IO shape on it once more. It's going to go into the end zone. Just thought, try and give a receiver a chance to make a play, and if not, at least we'll get some field position back, and so the Russians will have to work the full length of the pitch.
Oh, I tell you what, while this is happening, we've got 45 seconds. I'll explain about Career Island. So in the first ever World Championships, there was a couple of players who'd managed to put together a pickup team that wasn't made of one single nation, and they sent an application to the Beach Ultimate Lovers Association saying we're from Career Island.
Saying we're aghast that you haven't invited us to be at your tournament. The sport was in its infancy, and they quite liked the idea of having an extra team there, so they let them come, and Career Island has been invited ever since. Yeah, they kind of appear whenever there's a gap in the schedule, and it makes it a slightly more convenient number. And this weekend, they're representing all 8 divisions, which is always nice to see. So Russia's offense going back to work. Here's Goudobin, who had that previous Huck turnover. Looks deep, isolates Arisa. Oh, now I saw it late, but he did make the catch, and now he's going to lash deep. This disc is going to die towards the break side. If they can read it, they can indeed. Alexander Petrenko.
Oh, I'm going to start a love affair with Namov's inside sidearm throws into the wind. That is 3 or 4 now we've seen, where he just steps out, pumps the disc onto the air and lets it ride into this, but it's such a difficult skill, and he makes it look like he's barely moving, steps out, and that disc caught in the wind, but it was well caught in the end zone. But Namov with his 4th assist.
I think 3 assists and 2 goals. Not a bad return for a game, really, is it?
Well, he's not been on the field for the last few points, so we've barely mentioned him. And then steps on and shows us all how it's done.
A nice bit of a chant battle going on between the Russians and the Italians. Mikhail volunteer, who's roaming the field with the field mic, doing a fantastic job out there.
So 8-7 to the Russians.
Big pull, inside-out shape on this backhand. It's going to go deep into the end zone, or just about caught from Sati.
And time-wise, we're going to hear the whistle during this point. It's up to 45 minutes, so depending on who scores, it's either going to be a game to 9 if the Italian scores, which would be sudden death, or if the Russians score, it'll be a game to 10.
So there's a discussion here about a foul on the mark from Kochkin.
I think the Russians are using the wrong signal for contest.
I think there he's just trying to indicate what he's doing on the force.
Well, there's 2 Russians who've done it now, where I think the rest of the body language says, I'm arguing with you, and then they use the signal to say, no contest.
So Naumov is coming in to try and aid the discussion here.
I know he is saying, maybe he is saying no contest. Can we just get on with it?
Fumagali's coming as well to ease translation for the Italians.
Yeah, everybody's happy.
So Fumagalli will regain his position. Yeah, uncontested in the end. Look how wide those arms were from Kochkin.
Yeah, definitely uncontested.
So, but not a lot of separation downfield. First to break around, nice tough catch that by Lugassi under pressure from Zolotarev. Oh, it's going to be a travel called. Or maybe a foul. Maybe Lugassi bumped him as he tried to come through upfield. So everyone's just going to go and reset their positions.
Well, it's been a nice, clean game up until this point. There's been a couple of conversations, but generally extremely well-spirited. Hope that can continue as we get into the very close part of the match.
Just checked in now. Certainly not one of the more confident throwers on this team. Still count rising, has to try and blade it into nothing. This looks a little bit panicked, and now he's going to get taken and burned deep and nearly made the play, but what a grab that is from the Russians. Looks like number 12, Mikhailo Mojcevic, doing the honours. Really tight pressure from Gaspari as he endeavoured to make up for his mistake, but he couldn't quite get it done.
Look, the eyes going deep straight away, saw the threat, put the disc up, but all the work was still to do.
Oh, he came so close and somehow just plucks it out of the air, snatches it away from the defender.
Gaspari landing on the leg of the receiver. It's quite a tough blow. Look at this, there's the deep threat. Gaspari sees it, disc is on its way.
A most unfortunate walrus for Gaspari on the banks of the Atlantic Ocean. You familiar with the walrus, Tom?
No.
So you know the bookends for the D and the score.
Oh, the walrus is the opposite.
Yeah, so because with the bookends, people like put their hands on their heads like that. The walrus is the opposite. You flip the hands down, so it's when you turn and then you get scored on.
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately, the walrus is something I'm all too familiar with. Italian's getting really loud on the sideline there.
Well, if my calculations are right, Benji, this is Russia needing to score 1 point for the win. It's because the time cap will have gone on in that last point. So
Kochkin with the pull is going to hang up in the air a little bit.
The Italians needing 3, Russians needing 1 to win this game in the men's division.
Rossi finds Lugassi. Back to Rossi. Lugassi comes underneath. Rossi takes off up line, just goes out nice and early, looking deep. Nothing really developing downfield, so offense stagnates a little bit, trying to find a break. Not going downfield, gets a nice IO shape on that. Throw to Molino. Molino now back to Rossi. Yeah, Molino's gone up line, he makes the catch, that won't count. I think there's a stoppage earlier in the point. There's definitely a Russian defender on the floor, but maybe he just got completely left in the dust. Butikov doesn't look massively happy, but the goal's going to stand for the Italians.
I don't think there was anything wrong with the play there. It was just Butchakov maybe just frustrated that he'd got beaten.
That's the issue. He bites on the force too much and then tries to recover but can never really get there in time. And good job by the Italians of recognising that Melina was in all sorts of space on a nice upline throw to make an uncontested catch. Still a little bit of spectacle in it, and why not?
And so the Russians coming downwind with 2 points for the win of this game.
Yeah, the Italians can break here. We would go to Universe. Not surprised to see Rossi back on the field. Disc is going to sit in the air, die towards the sideline, lands just about out of bounds and going to be bricked. You see Ilya Dannenberg with his arm up in the air. Those 2 gloves, 1 on each hand. Fumagalli is going to be on the mark. The Italians have got the Russians have got Dannenberg, Proskuryakev, Petrenko, Naumov downfield as well. He's going to get the disc now. Looking at a backhand, he's going to swing the disc back to Proskuryakev. Oh, pops up and he can't catch up to it. The Italians with a chance to break to take us into sudden death here. Rossi strides towards the disc.
We've been talking all game about how good Naumov's throws have been, and right when he needed it, a bit of a mistake. The Italians capitalising here, or maybe not. Rossi downfield.
Oh, the throw's going to sit. A massive humanity underneath it, and they got a tip on it. I don't think he needed to in the end. There's going to be a foul called by Gaspari. I don't necessarily think that would have affected it. I think it was going over all of them regardless.
Yeah, that field, Mike, is quite a long way away, but I think, yeah, they've all declined whatever they were calling.
So the turnover is going to stand. Another chance for the Russians to finish it off here. Vandenberg will pick up. Tries to swing it. Oh, Rossi's a split second too late on that layout. Here's Naumov. He's got Petrenko going deep. The force of Legassi bites. Throw doesn't go. Now into the centre a little bit. Pop up, but not a problem for Petrenko. Now Petrenko's looking deep for Naumov. The throw's going to play. He's going to go over the top. Oh, outstretched hand, trying to bring it in trailing edge to Andrei Soprinov.
Oh, that would have been a spectacular end to a really brilliant game, and just could not quite connect the Italians with their opportunities to rescue something.
I'm not sure why he went with the right hand. It feels like if he'd gone with the left, it would have kind of stuck in there, but getting round trailing edge is such a difficult skill, and see it again here. If he'd maybe gone with that left arm across, it would have stuck in there, or maybe with 2, but
he'd almost got too close to it, hadn't he? He'd done all the hard work and got there, and then almost went past it as he tried to catch it.
So here's Legassi cutting, getting a nice little leading pass, maybe 2 leading, in fact, from Rossi. He's frustrated with himself. Short field here from the Russians, moving quickly. Naumov surveys the field, and he's going to take a timeout late in the point. Can't afford to let anything go. Legassi's holding his shoulder. Maybe he took a bit of a hard landing there, and both sides huddle around. Russia's trying to put to game the spread. The Italians trying to prove their title of comeback kings that they earned in their first game yesterday against Russia's neighbours of Ukraine.
Well, if they can pull it out of the bag again, that would be really quite remarkable, because they had no right to beat the Ukraine yesterday, the way they played.
No offence to the Ukraine, but Russians are certainly probably more hotly tipped in this tournament.
Yeah, the other teams in this pool, Ireland, Denmark, Germany, Ukraine, and Courier Island. So these 2, Russia and Italy, are the teams in front of us. The Russians started as the 2nd seed in the tournament, the Italians the 11th seed. You cannot count out any of the young Italian sides, because the scene in Italy at the moment is just so unpredictable. So many young players coming out.
I mean, we saw the one in the 24 championships last year in Perth, Australia, that they fought, and arguably they should have won that game against the USA in the men's division in the final. They've been strong, and they've put a lot of work into their youth programs. Bologna is obviously the main hub of that, but other sixes as well, like Rimini, are also involved as well. So we're going to see the Russian offense set up. two cutters at the back of the end zone. One isolated at the front is Ilya Dannenberg.
Naumov with the disc. Such a big player in this game, 3 assists. What can he do with it now?
Lugassi on the force. Naumov looking, tries to dish it up line, not there. Thinks about an around swing, and there's going to be a stoppage on a foul call.
So I think I think the foul calls come from Lugassi, and by the body language, his foul calls has been conceded by Lugassi, so it's going to be coming back in on 0.
I don't know, I think I might take the throw. I think I might retract that actually and just take the throw. You get the disc in arguably a better position in the middle of the field. Naumov tries to strike up line, the bid is just too late. Petrenko from Naumov is a connection we've seen so many times already in this game, and they link up once more to take a 10-8 victory to the Russians.
Naumov with 4 assists in this one, and I think in the end of the day they were the better side, more consistent, especially throwing into that big wind. But very evenly matched, both teams breaking each other sporadically throughout the game. The Italians getting off to that great start with a break in the first point, but the Russians grinding it out.
Yeah, we were tied at 7 apiece, and the Russians just found a little bit more in the tank, got an extra break to open up that 2-point lead, and the Italians couldn't come back. Big plays from both sides, but the Russians were just a little bit more consistent in the end. I think more depth across the squad showed. The top of that Italian roster was very good, but when the game progressed, they maybe got a little bit tired, couldn't quite execute at the same level they would have liked and were able to earlier on in the game, and in the end, the Russians are going to run out 10-8 winners. We're going to take a little break before our next game. We're bringing you action, Tom Stiles and myself, back in the booth for a men's Masters game between the old rivals of Great Britain and Ireland. That's a game I'm super excited for, but we're going to leave you in the meantime for all of our Ulti TV crew here on the WFDF YouTube channel, on the beach at EBUC. I've been Benji Rees.
And I've been Tom Stiles.
And we will see you shortly.